Broward County Democrats don't always steal elections, just when they want to or need to or they're behind or something. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Green and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com, and joining me, of course, Bill Whittle and Scott Ott. Guys, we've seen all the headlines. In fact, I want to read you this quote from John Hinderegger at Powerline that I thought really summed it up well. He said, "I don't think we can say with certainty that election officials in Broward and Palm Beach counties are trying to steal the Florida Senate and gubernatorial elections for the Democrats, but we can certainly say that they are keeping their options open." And guys, I think my favorite headline out of this whole week-long mess now of electoral shenanigans comes out of Georgia. And the headline was, "Stacey Abrams allegedly attempts to run illegal ads in support of a non-existent gubernatorial runoff." And we and we see these things, these stories, these headlines, these shenanigans, these fraud, and the occasional outright theft of elections, time and again, oftentimes in the exact same places. And it just makes you think, we can do better, can't we? Bill, let me throw this one to you first. What would you do to clean up Broward County, or do you need to start bigger than that?
Well, as usual, the problem is not that we don't have good laws or rules in effect. The problem is that we just don't adhere to them. Actually, you know what? I take that back.
Who's we?
I take that back. I mean the country. We have degraded so many of the mechanisms that protect the integrity of an election day. And one of them is this idea that, you can start voting. It's like buying Christmas presents in October, It's like, you can start voting whenever you feel like it. 2 months in advance of the election, no problem. You don't know what could happen between now and the election day. And if you can vote by mail, then you can vote fraudulently by mail. And if you don't have to be, if you don't have to be registered, or if there's no way to mark that you voted, then you can go and vote someplace else under a different name and so on. And Florida is just another example of what we've seen since at least 2000, and that is the Democrats are going to say that every vote must be counted, and then they're going to keep finding boxes of ballots, and they're going to keep finding them until the Democrat has one more vote or greater than the Republican, at which point all of the votes will finally have been found, and we can rest easy that no one has been disenfranchised. This is the part of it where we really could make things just very, very simple. And I would, if I had the power to enforce this, I would. I think we need paper ballots because paper ballots are traceable and markable. I think we need paper ballots. I think we need a thumb dipped in indelible ink to show without doubt that you have already voted. And if somebody comes into a voting booth and they've got a purple thumb on them, I think even regular citizens can figure out that that's cheating.
Remove the finger if they try to vote with it twice.
I know a lot of Democrats would be willing to give that a go. But the most important thing is to understand what an election is and what a ballot is. You have the freedom and the opportunity to vote in this country, but that doesn't mean that you have months and months and months to do it either before or after everybody else. So unless you're in the hospital or overseas, you have to be there on election day to cast your ballot on election day. That's not an unreasonable burden to put on an American citizen, especially since they're guaranteed time off from work for this kind of thing, which I'm in favor of as a general rule. But what I mean by this is that people have to understand that your opinion is not what counts. What counts is a ballot. And a ballot is a specific document, and certain things have to happen on that ballot. You can't vote for two presidents at the same time, for example. And when they say the polls close at 7 o'clock, that means that at the very least nobody new comes into the line at 7 o'clock. And if your vote wasn't in there that night to be counted, then your vote doesn't count. I'm sorry. And for Democrats to say hey, look, the numbers for the Democrat keep increasing because we keep finding more votes for Democrats. First of all, we all know that's a transparent lie. We all know it. We know it. It's just plain fraud. We don't do anything. But even if we were to grant them the case, then we will say the next election, you need to get your Democratic ground game into gear here, because the polls closed at 7. You had ballots that were not turned in time for them to be legitimate ballots. Therefore, they're spoiled ballots. And I would have a strong inclination to tell you to get your act together, because we count the ballots the night of the election. And we don't keep finding new ballots. As far as an actual corrective to this, once you own the Justice Department, you can do whatever you want to. That's what we learned from Barack Obama. Once you own the Justice Department, you can commit whatever crimes you want to, because they will just simply not prosecute them. If we have a new Attorney General, and in Florida, they keep showing up with new ballots that were not counted before, I would put the FBI on those cases. I would put them on those cases. I would check every single name that comes in after election night, after the polls close at 7. Any ballot that appeared after that, I would have the FBI investigate every single one of them. And we know we'd find a lot of fakes, but that's not the point. It doesn't matter. You could have the entire Daughters of the American Revolution vote come in the next day, and it doesn't matter. It's too late. Your ballot is void because you did not get it in on time. So until we get the idea of the rule of law back, it doesn't matter which one of these things that we talk about. They're all peccadillos. If there's no rules except to win, then the whole discussion's academic. In our pregame show, we were talking with Scott about this, and Scott said the thing about Democrats that's nice is, it ain't over till you win. And I replied by saying, no, the Democrats' motto is, it ain't over.
Yeah.
Ever. It ain't ever over. Ever. It's never over. And you can't have a democracy with people who simply refuse to accept the outcome of elections.
Scott, Bill brings up a interesting distinction, I think, that a ballot is a legal document that has to fulfill...
It's not a vote.
Exactly. It
until
has to
it's a ballot.
Certain things.
It's not a vote until it's a ballot.
Exactly. And it reminds me, going back to the early days of the war on terror after 9/11, when we started capturing some of these bad guys, and we had people insisting that terrorists are prisoners of war because they were prisoners who we captured in a war, but a POW is an actual legal status that the bad guy has to hold. He has to wear a uniform. He has
wearing
to
a uniform, and he's wearing a uniform to protect the civilians, so that if he's not wearing a uniform, then we don't know who to shoot at. That's what makes it a prisoner of war.
Exactly. And so it's this same thing where we've broadened what a vote means until it's so meaningless that it can mean whatever people in Broward County or Georgia or maybe even Arizona, and certainly in Minnesota 10 years ago, whatever it is they want it or need it to mean. So, Scott, do we need some actual structural reforms, do you think? Or do we just need to throw some Democrats in jail? Or do we need some Republicans with balls enough to pursue this stuff legally?
Well, not to go off topic or anything, but this reminds me of an ongoing conflict I have with this local diner. It's a breakfast place. They're open till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I come there one day, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they won't let me in. They say, "Whoa, we were closed at 2 o'clock." Like I don't have a right to eat because of some arbitrary number that they set. And I'm there at 3 o'clock. I'm hungry. I'm willing to purchase food.
And they're a restaurant. They have an obligation to serve you, right?
Now, it's an owner-operated restaurant, but I still felt disenfranchised. And so then the other thing happens. So one day I show up under their egregious conditions. I get there at 11. I go in there. I have a good meal. It was actually good restaurant. And I go out to pay with my credit card. And the lady at the counter says I have to actually show them my credit card. I'm like, I have a credit card. What are you saying about me? That I'm not a kind of person that would have a credit card? But they said I had to actually give them, like I had to hand them the credit card or stick it into this machine, like some sort of tangible piece of plastic, which would establish my legitimacy as somebody who could pay for things. And I don't buy that either. And so, our old buddy Hugh Hewitt said years ago that if it ain't close, they can't cheat. And I think that's the thing that bothers me most about the races in Florida and in Arizona, is that they were so darn close, that it opens the opportunity that if shenanigans are going to happen, that they could be effective. And that's the problem, I think, on a larger scale, I mean, yeah, we want to win elections that we legitimately win, and we want to make sure nobody's cheating and every ballot is counted and counted once and all of that kind of stuff. But what really bothers me is that these ideas that I treasure, that I hold dear, have somehow been put across in such a feeble manner that it comes down to a razor's edge total in elections in places that we should own. Now, that said, I was actually involved in a ballot recount once, or a review anyway, of the balloting, because it was a tight margin in a race that I ran in. And they allow the candidates the opportunity to sit in on that process. You can actually sit there and shut up and
Seems
watch
reasonable.
the election officials do their thing. You're not allowed to say anything. If you have a request, you have to like channel it through somebody. Anyway, nothing that I saw there in this county in Pennsylvania led me to believe that there were any kinds of illegalities going on or unethical behavior. It seemed a very disciplined process through with established protocols, and I had no reason to doubt the outcome, and I was totally willing to concede the election. We can't know what we don't know in these situations. We're not in the room. We don't know what really happened, and the only news that we get is between Republicans and Democrats fanning the flames on both sides, basically saying that the other side is evil or the other side cheated. I guess part of me says you got to trust the process. Not that it's flawless, not that they don't try to cheat, but in the long run, the good will out. And we should put our focus, instead of on complaining about the call that the referee made, even if he's a corrupt referee, our focus should really be, how can we win the race in Florida next time by a 60-40 margin so that we don't have this?
Yeah, that would be nice.
I just got to say,
go ahead, Bill.
that is, to say that we have to overcome, we not only have to win the majority of the population, but we also have to win enough of a majority to deal with the inevitable cheating, is to give up the game. The game's over at that point. If you're basically saying that we are going to accept the fact that there's another 3 or 4% of cheating in there, so we have to win by 5%, the game is over.
No, I'm not saying we have to accept it, Bill. I'm
Well,
just
but, I
saying
mean,
the reason why we're always complaining about it is because these darn races are always so close, because for whatever reason, these great ideas have not managed to get out there in a way that compels people to vote for Republicans.
Well, certainly I'm with you on that one. And the only other thing I would just say, just real quickly, is next time you discuss this, I would just respectfully ask that you replace the words shenanigans with felony voter fraud.
Yes, and that's
I
important.
was not making a formal legal charge because I did not have the evidence at hand.
That's okay. I'm just saying.
I was going to say monkey shines.
Nobody uses that one anymore. Thank you for reminding me of that. Oh, man.
Hijinks.
The disagreement here between Bill and Scott really gets to the core of what I wanted to talk about on this segment, which is how do we make the process better so that both sides can have increased faith in the outcome, in the results, that nobody's been cheating because the system is just too hard to cheat. And Bill mentioned a couple of these, but if I were God Emperor for a day and you really want to give me that power, I would use it for good and not evil. Ha! No, I wouldn't. But here are the changes that I would absolutely want to make. And these are, I think all of these are common sense, and I get to one kind of weird one at the end. Require photo ID to vote. We already do this here where I live. I think that should be nationwide. Outlaw early voting and voting by mail. Period. It's election day for a reason. If it comes out that candidate B, who you really supported, it comes out the day before the election that he was a member of the Communist Party and used to step on kittens, well, you already cast your vote for him a month ago. Now what do you do? So yes, none of this mail-in early voting stuff. Absentee ballots only in case of travel, which includes the military or medical necessity. Period. And you got to show proof of travel. Paper ballots only. Again, Bill said that one. It's very solid. No same-day voter registration. This is how you inflate the rolls with just ghosts. Purple fingers. Bill mentioned that one. And this might be a little controversial, but I would amend the Constitution to mandate a nationwide purge of the voter rolls every 2, 3, or 5 years to get rid of all of these fake voters, at least temporarily on a rotating.
Should be done every election.
Well, you know what?
After every election, they should just comb through the rolls.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think Steve is talking about fraudulent voters, although there are some of those.
Sure.
But there are large
just
numbers
people
of
happen to
people
have
in the
died.
voter rolls who have either died or moved out of the area. And they're
Exactly.
not going to ever cast a ballot again, but their names are in there, and they could be used as a front or a facade for somebody else.
Exactly. Now, my voting habits are really easy to track. You could tell if it was fraud. I really only vote one of three ways. I vote Libertarian when I can, I vote Republican when I have to, and I vote Democrat after I'm dead. It's really that simple. But what I would like to see going forward is applying, if there's a way to do this anonymously, blockchain technology to our paper ballots, so that every ballot is accounted for, not just after the election, but before the election, and we can reconcile that in an uncorruptible way. And that, I think, would restore or create a trust in our voting process that maybe no democracy has ever had before. And I think that's something we need to look into going forward. Just a few thoughts I wanted to share with you all. And I loved getting the different angles on this from Bill and from Scott, because that was kind of a discussion I like to see more of here on Right Angle. And I must conclude by saying that this show has been brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like what you see, click over, become a member, become one of our citizen producers. We would love to have you as part of the team. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.